My name is Tim Blackmon, and I'm a Detroit-based performer and educator. Today, we're going to discuss key figures from the great jazz trumpet lineage that have roots based right here in Detroit. During the first half of the 20th century, jazz in Detroit gained momentum during the swing era as a result of the first Great Migration and due to its importance as a geographic crossroads and regular stop for top big bands of the day. Our first figure is someone who grew out of that big band tradition. Originally from Tulsa, Oklahoma, trumpeter Howard McGhee was raised in Detroit during the height of Paradise Valley, an entertainment district in Detroit's Black Bottom neighborhood. The valley provided opportunities to hundreds of local musicians in hotels, ballrooms, and nightclubs. This area is where musicians like Wardell Gray, Lucky Thompson, and Howard cut their teeth and became one of the first waves of Detroiters to pick up the developing modern jazz coming from New York in the 40s, bebop. Howard went on to work in bands like Lionel Hampton, Andy Kirk, and even brief stints with the Count Basie Orchestra. He participated in fabled jam sessions at Minton's Playhouse and Monroe's Uptown House that pushed the music from swing to bop. He even recorded on the first dial sessions with the great Charlie Parker. Known for his fast technical passages and dynamic range, Howard is considered by most to be a key link between Roy Eldridge and Dizzy Gillespie. He is one of the first bebop trumpet players and was a major influence to Fats Navarro. Here's a composition of his from 1945 entitled Howard's Blues. From a musical family of 10, trumpeter, composer, arranger, and band leader Thad Jones hailed from Pontiac, Michigan, and he is credited with reinvigorating the big band genre for nearly 30 years. Mostly self-taught, Thad began playing professionally by the age of 16 and served in various Army band regiments during World War II. Continuing his career after the war, he landed a spot in Count Basie's band and became a featured soloist and arranger for almost 9 years. Leaving Basie's group in the mid-60s, Thad started a big band with drummer Mel Lewis. In 1965, that band began performing at the Village Vanguard in New York City nearly every Monday for 12 years straight. 59 years later, and almost 2,600 Mondays, the big band still performs in Thad and Mel's honor. Thad is considered to be one of the greatest of all-time jazz trumpet soloists and is an institution for jazz arranging and composition. Charles Mingus called him Bartok with vowels. His use of melody and harmonic tension within his improvisations and arrangements are amongst his trademarks. Here's a composition of his named Scratch from a Blue Note record, Detroit, New York Junction. The golden age of jazz in Detroit produced many musicians whose names became synonymous with the hard bop sound. Yusef Lateef, Milt Jackson, Barry Harris, Curtis Fuller, Ron Carter, Joe Henderson, and many others. These musicians were not only performers, but they were teachers and cultural bearers. Trumpeter Donald Byrd was one of these exceptional mentors. An attendee of Cass Tech and a graduate of Wayne State University in Detroit, Byrd became popular when he replaced Clifford Brown as a trumpeter for Art Blakey and the Jazz Messengers when he arrived in New York City. After leaving the Messengers, Byrd was a notable sideman for the likes of Coltrane, Monk, Sonny Rollins, and he became a major mentor for a young Herbie Hancock. By the end of the 1960s, Byrd began blending elements of jazz fusion and R&B in his music and formed an electric group, the Blackbyrds. Donald Byrd's wide array of musical representation is his greatest allure. From hard bop and spirituals to funk and disco, Byrd truly sought versatility and diversity through his music. Our next composition became really famous because of his use in film and television. Originally written by pianist Duke Pearson, Cristo Redentor became a breakout hit on Donald Byrd's 1964 Blue Note album release. Detroit's music scene in the early 60s drew musicians because of its allure as a jazz city and the promise of studio work with the pop success of Motown Records. Fresh off of the road with the sensational Ray Charles, trumpeter Marcus Belgrave arrived in Detroit in 1963, well versed in a professional experience and the blues and bebop tradition. He quickly became involved in the local performance circuit. Increased urbanization in the aftermath of the violence in '67 caused many local opportunities to shutter, and some musicians took matters into their own hands, forming artist collectives. Their music reflected social justice and cultural identity. They produced magazines, funded their own recordings, concerts, and broadcasts. It is during this time when Belgrave found his true calling in teaching. In the '70s, Belgrave headed a nonprofit initiative for teaching that connected students and provided on-the-bandstand opportunities for young developing musicians. Some of Belgrave's students include Jerry Allen, Kenny Garrett, Robert Hurst, Rodney Whitaker, Kareem Riggins, Regina Carter, and countless other disciples. Many consider Belgrave as a catalyst that helped preserve and nurture Detroit's jazz scene well into the 21st century. His sound was bold and full of soul. In honor of the first recording I ever heard Marcus Belgrave perform on, this is Willow Weep for Me. As a performer and educator, I am proud to be a part of Detroit's lineage of musical tradition and mentorship. I would like to extend a thank you to JazzEd Detroit and Michigan State University's Community Music School in Detroit, and to all of you for watching. Thanks for viewing, and we'll see you on the bandstand. So I have two students here, and I would like for them to introduce themselves, starting with Andrew.
Hi, my name is Andrew Brown. I am a senior in high school. I go to Dearborn High School. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, Andrew. All right, Jerron.
Hi, my name is Jerron Perry. I am a junior at Detroit School of Arts High School.
Wonderful, wonderful, cats. And I know I have both worked with you before at CMS Detroit, so Community Music School in Detroit, and with the Spartan Youth Jazz Program. So I'm just very happy that you guys are joining, me for this lesson, and I can't really wait to dive in. So one of the things that I decided to do with this project is I kind of wanted to take a more like historical route and kind of showcase like Detroit's basically Detroit's involvement in shaping the jazz culture and how it kind of has been from the inception of or at least from the big band era and moving on, how influential musicians from Detroit like made their mark. And I mentioned earlier before was the Jones brothers, and by them I'm meaning Hank Jones, the pianist, Thad Jones, trumpeter, composer, band leader, and then Elvin Jones, drummer. So they were literally all brothers. They were from a big family of 10, and it was a huge musical family. So, I feel that their contributions, they were all masters. Hank Jones, pianist, master accompanist. Some of my favorite work he's done is on the Sweets Edison and Ben Webster record. I think it's called Ben and Sweets. I think his comping on there is just masterful. He's, like I said, masterful accompanist. And then Thad Jones, we mainly know him for his work with the Basie Band. So if you ever heard that famous April in Paris version, he plays the Pop Goes the Weasel theme. So that's Thad Jones playing that. And then, of course, we know him later for his big band writing. But just Thad was a kind of like a total package, man. Like he he could play, he could write, he could lead a band. He just really invigorated the music. And then Elvin Jones, I like to think about how jazz started before Elvin Jones and then how jazz sounded after. So he definitely like a monumental influence on how we hear rhythm and how the roles of the drums, like what was acceptable and what can be done. So right now I'm going to show a little clip from the educational portion of my video. So I'm going to screen share with you guys, and this is just like a little clip talking about Thad Jones. So just bear with me here while I screen share. From a musical family of 10, trumpeter, composer, arranger, and band leader, Thad Jones. So, hey, I just wanted to share that little, historical blurb about Thad. So, if you can see in the video, I have the little picture of that record there, the Detroit, New York Junction. I think I sent you guys links to the recording. So that's the record that the tune that we're going to be studying, Scratch, is on. So if you have your lead sheets handy, what we're going to do now, I'm going to stop my screen share for just a second here. And we're just going to listen to the melody together, right? And then after the melody in, I'm just going to ask you guys some questions on some of the things that you were hearing. So let's check this out. at least play the break in there. I feel like I couldn't cut him off, cut him off there. All right, so that's the tune, right? So, what are some things that y'all think about the tune? Did you like it? Just any observations? So just feel free to chime in. Go ahead.
All right, so I'll start off. So just from the melody alone, you can hear that makes a great use of just triplets, almost throughout the entire tune, really. Like, it's all over the A section and the bridge. And then I just really like his use of articulation and how he phrases the bebop lines. Like, this whole tune is just bebop completely. And then really just his scalar ideas of how to approach the melody, how to approach playing that. And then, already it's just a great tune overall. A nice and easy tempo, not too fast, not too slow. It's like right there in that pocket. So
yeah, it's grooving, right? Yeah, that's actually one of the reasons that drew me to this tune. When I first heard it, that's what I thought. I was like, man, this tune is nice and easy, and it is so swinging. Like the way they're playing, they make it sound so easy, Yeah, so it's a great, good observation. Anything else?
It's a relatively simple and diatonic chord progression, at least for the A section, but his melody makes it so interesting.
Yes.
What he does a lot is he repeats phrases like 2 times, like at the beginning of A, it's like da ba-da-da-da-do da ba-da-da-da-do da, and he does that quite a lot through it, and that just keeps it interesting.
Exactly. So I want to point out one of the things that you said, Andrew, was the use of, like, you're talking about how diatonically simple that this progression is, because it sounds like any sort of progression that we've ever heard, So this is like turnarounds, right? So 2 5 1 6 2 5, like kind of having that little like motion. So yes, what makes it really interesting is his note choices in the tune. So if we're gonna move into the tune, so quick question though, before we dive into the intricacies, did y'all peep the form? What's the form of the tune? At least of the melody. Now we know it starts with a 4-bar intro, right?
Yeah.
So it starts with that 4-bar intro. That's not part of the form. So, but what is the actual form of the tune?
It's like A B A squared kind of.
Yeah. I like that. I like the A squared because it's a little different, right? So it's like if we're counting bars, right? We have the first A is 8, right? And obviously the second A is 8 as well. The bridge is 8, so we got 8, 8, 8. But then that last A is 12. It has a little tag at the end of it.
Yeah.
26 bars. So there's a couple tunes that have that. All the things you are kind of does the same thing, has a little tag at the end. So the way he constructs this tune, it kind of reminds me of something like that. Like add a little tag on that last section, and it kind of compositional wise, it kind of like catches us by surprise because we're expecting it like, oh, it's just gonna be an AAB tune, it's gonna be 8, 8, 8, 8, yeah. But that last A, when I first heard, I was like, whoa, okay, just how simple adding 4 bars, to something like just drastically changes the character of the tune. So cool. Now we know the form. The form is 36 bars, not 32 bars. So a little uncommon. All right, so let's dive right away into some of like the theory and the harmony. So as you mentioned before, Andrew, yes, the changes are extremely diatonic. I mean, even when it comes to the bridge, we kind of get that 2/5 to our F sharp, which might seem strange, but he is able, I feel like in the next 4 bars, to work it right back into the key of our home key of F. That's what the key is. And so it's in our trumpet key of F, concert E flat, but the changes just start on the minor 2. So it starts on that starts on the F minor there. So let's look right at A. So we're right at measure 5 right now. So we got that first phrase, right? So we talked about his use of triplets, right, and his use of repetition in rhythmic repetition or thematic repetition. Like already, so he states that one theme once, right, and he states it again, but then it leads to somewhere else. So if we're looking at it harmonically, right, and we think about what's really happening. So like the first chord is our G minor, right? So I'm gonna play this. So all those notes are in our G minor, right? All those notes work, but what I think is the most interesting is just the starting pitch. Like he starts on our C. So C is what in relation to G minor? The note C. It's the 4, the fourth of the 11, right? So if we're on a minor, if we have a typical minor chord, starts on that 11. So such a nice color to already kind of start. And he does this shape that's like, it almost sounds like he's stacking, stacking the thirds, right? And then we get up to that C, like I said, this is all diatonic at that point, right? So it's like D is the 5th, and then he goes to the 7th, and then he's on the 9, and then he goes back to the 11, and then we get that E flat in there, right? So it's like, people already, like when we talk about like Dorian or like minor in jazz, we really don't like that flat 6, right? We would keep it a natural 6 sound, right? But already he gives us that color, like, hey, this is a minor 6. This is a complete minor 6 sound. Very soulful using that flat 6. It's already out the gate. Okay, cool. Now moving on to the next bar. Now check this out. This is our 5, right? So this is where we get the 2-5 happening, right? So, right? So he gets, what I think is so interesting about how he chooses to sound that 5 chord is it's a common theme, the common sound in here. That sharp 5 sound, that altered dominant sound. So you see it right there in that melody. This is the second bar I'm talking about now. So that's a C triad, C augmented triad, right? So already, like what I really appreciate just in the first 2 bars of this tune is we have this simplicity in the harmonic structure in the rhythm, right? The rhythm changes, like they're just very simple, but the melody is implying intricacy. Y'all see what's happening? Yeah. So like we go from like, okay, he doesn't have a typical minor 7 sound. He's dealing with the minor 6 sound, and then in the next bar, he's dealing with the altered sound, or whole tone. You can even think about it like that, right? And then the next portion of it, extremely diatonic. And that's great. But then check out in bar 10, when we get back to that C7, he's still using that altered sound. Like, that is so hip, So I think one of the important things to notice, especially with this melody, is Thad Jones's use of harmony and especially like implying harmony against, just like traditional, like kind of simple harmony. But his melody is implying harmony, and that's one of the things that a lot of bebop players did. Like a lot of contrafacts, a lot of bebop tunes, they would probably have like simple changes, but the melody would God, what's the word I'm looking for? imply a different sound. Like y'all ever heard that's Hot House. So
Yeah.
that second bar of Hot House, like that is implying a augmented kind of sound. Because if we were thinking about the changes there, that would be R D7, right? Just a regular D7, but that's implying a sharp 11 kind of sound. But just the way that they broke the intervals up, it's like, man, that sounds so abstract already. It's like they were dealing with this in the 40s, you know? And this probably would have been about the time. I feel like this composition that Thad wrote was pretty early into his career. Like, we can definitely see the major influence that bebop had and how it worked its way from New York to the musicians in Detroit here. So this record that it came out, Detroit New York Junction, I think it came out in the mid 50s, like 55, 56. So so Thad would have made this record right when he got out of playing in bands, army bands in World War II, and this would have been one of the first things he did right after he got with Basie, like just on his own, right? So I just think it's a brilliant snapshot for the writer that Thad Jones would become, the writer, the great soloist, the great thinker, you know. Like I said, I mentioned that quote in there from Charles Mingus. He was Bartok with vowels, you know. Just like if you know anything about the composer Bartok, he would kind of write like obtuse, obscure kind of melodies that were very challenging. And to me, Thad Jones was that in our music. So how about this? So why don't we take turns trading the first 5 bars? So we'll do the first phrase. So I'll count us off. It'll be a 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. And one thing that I like about that ending part of the phrase is when I heard Thad play it, he didn't play it directly in time. Like he kind of like let the phrase breathe a little bit, you know? There's like a little like hesitation there. It kind of reminded me of like some Clifford Brown, you know, kind of influence, like they're like doodle tonguing or like ghost tonguing. So let me see if I can play this the first phrase, and we'll trade it. 1, 2. So the hard part, I feel like, is definitely that third bar, you know, getting those turns in there. When I was transcribing this, I had to listen to that part over and over again. Man, what exactly are they doing? I thought they were just, you know, doing little turns or something, you know? But it's really diatonic. It's really diatonic. So if you're having difficulty, especially with that part, to me, I find that section, that bar right there, and then of course the bridge, that's the intervals, are the most difficult parts of the tune. But go ahead, Andrew. Why don't you take a crack at that first phrase? Yeah, not bad, man, not bad. I would just to challenge you a little bit more. Could you see if you can try to smooth it out, like connect the eighth notes a little bit more?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, go ahead and give it a try. Yeah, that was killing, man. That's it. Jerron, you want to try?
Yeah, yeah. A little worried about the triplets.
Hey, that's okay. You don't need to play it at the same tempo we're doing it. Take it a little slower. Like 1, 2, ba do ba do da ba 2 ba do ba do. Take it right there. Take it where you need to. Okay, not bad. So let's isolate that bar real quick. That with the turns in it. So we know the first turn happens on beat 2. So just think about playing like don't even think about anything else right now. If we're gonna count ourselves in, let's just get that first thing on beat 2. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4. So you want to make sure that you tongue that downbeat. I think that's one of the greatest things that'll help you in phrasing the melody. If you're singing it too, because I think about the accent at least on the first 2 bars to be on the and, right? So 1, 2, ba do ba do do ba. And then you know we're focusing on the downbeats at that point. So right now, just isolate that bar. Just play that first part, that first little turn there, starting on the C. Yes. Okay, great. And now let's do the second one. Now let's do the last one. Yeah. Now we put them together. That's okay. You don't have to do it fast now. Yeah. Okay. So this is a good way to isolate. Like, let's say if you're having in general, when you're learning a new melody and you get to like a difficult bar, I like to just take a small piece of it, right, and then start building. And I kind of repeat it over and over again, making sure I got it. You know. Yeah. That's how you work it out.
I think the thing for me is, you know, keeping it in time.
Yes, so what's definitely going to help is a metronome, but I think the strongest thing to keep in mind with this is like the downbeats. Think about your downbeats. And really, you know, making whatever you gotta, however you gotta sing it. I really think that'll help you too, because if you can sing it, you can play it. So however that you interpret vocalizing it, that's how it's going to come out of your horn, you know? Because I want this to be really swinging. I think about those accents. Like, I'm trying to do everything that I can in my singing so that when I transfer it to the horn, I can kind of get close, you know? So I know we only got a couple more minutes here, but let's really move on. So like that's a difficult section of that tune, getting those turns together. And you might even try to play the melody without the turns for right now. So let's see if you're gonna do without the turns. So it's the same thing without the turns. You know, if you were to take the turns away. But the most important part with the turns is isolating them. Just taking them in pieces and then try to put them together slowly. All right, cool. So let's move with the melody here. We're just gonna continue. Let's check out the next phrase. So we got. So that's that bar right there. That bar 12. So that's a little 2-5, like that, our minor 2-5. That's getting us back to G minor. Y'all see it where the A is?
Yeah.
So that bar, guess what sound he's using again? He's using that altered sound here, right? So he's using, well, to me, it's like he's using a combination of, like, you can think of it like alter, or you can think about, oh, he's really using the harmonic minor sound, which is, so he's using that sound to get back to G minor. Y'all check that out? So it's like we have B flat, F sharp, E flat in there. So like those are hitting all the right notes in that A minor 7 flat 5, right? Like those are all right notes. But if we're thinking about it in D7, it's an altered triad. It's altered. So we see the theme of, like, man, he really likes that sharp 5 sound. He really likes that. So it's in the melody already. Just something to take notice, right, of the melody. All right, let's keep moving on. The second A pretty much starts the same, right? And then this next bar is kind of setting us up for that 2/5 for that bridge key. So this was a little bit difficult getting those triplets in time. Had to do them slow. So that little phrase lets us know, like, okay, he's setting us up for that G sharp or A flat minor, right, sound. So that brings us to the bridge, which I think is the most difficult part of the song because of the intervals. So it is a 2-5-1, like a series of, like, that happens, right? So we got this nice, right? So if you're looking for even a 2-5-1 phrase, like, that's a little great idea to kind of have, So let's check it out. Perfect, complete idea that lets us know that we're in the key of F sharp major, to me. Y'all hear that? Even just that first bar, we really hear that minor sound. If he wanted to, he could have went down to the root, but he went up a half step. And then like, and really landed on that 9, that really nice colored tone up there. So the interval relationship, the relationships that he's dealing with here. All right. So that, when you're practicing, I would take that part really, really slow. Because even when I perform this with a trio, that part kept getting me. I kept maybe overshooting a partial or something. So really, if you're in the shed, isolate it real slow. I'll play it at a time. Like everything out of time, so I can just make sure that I got the right notes. That I know what my chops are doing. I know how it feels to play those right notes. So let's keep going. So this is going into measure 25, the second phrase. Bar 26, that's such a classic bebop idea right there. That'd be one that I would steal and try to take through 12 keys. And then that last 2 bars of meaning measures 27 and 28. So that's like our big long 2-5 to get us back into the phrase. That's such a great idea too. Perfect idea right there. Like, I would steal, and steal some more from this tune. So like I said, I know we're almost out of time here, but I really wanted to just harp on the intricacies of this melody and to really show you guys like how methodical Thad Jones is with his writing. You know, we're just focusing on this one tune and on this one person, but I would really encourage you both when you're learning a new melody, when you're learning a new song, to like really try to get inside of that melody and understand the intricacies and understand how it relates to what chord it's on, or like, you know, chord tones, where the melody, to really understand. Well, I thank both of you guys for, you know, being a part of this session, and I hope you're able to grab something, and I hope you guys play the tune Scratch. It's a really swinging tune. I want to hear it more at jam sessions. I want to hear cats working on it.
Yeah. I can say I'm definitely going to start shedding this tune, and I really appreciate you for having us. Thank you.
All right. I appreciate you, Jerron. Thank you.